Hello there, and welcome to Life Off Screen. I'm Dan Ruppel, and this is my wife, Peggy. And today we are joined by another set of dear friends, Mark and Sharon Fincannon. Mark is an extremely experienced casting director. The couple lives in Atlanta, and right now he's got his company there working out of Atlanta. Mark has worked with some of the most legendary directors. He's worked with Steven Spielberg, David Lynch, George Lucas, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. He's cast for over 200 movies, 100 television movie of the weeks, and countless miniseries and regular series, all sorts of work he's done in television.
And amazingly, he has won an Emmy as well for his work. He worked with Tom Hanks on HBO's From the Earth to the Moon, and we've been to their house and we've held it in our hands. Pretty amazing.
Yeah,
and
I tried to steal it, but that would have been nice.
But it was just, remarkable. The guy's a great guy, but what you're going to love the most is hearing his heartbeat for his wife, their life, their calling, not just their work, their calling. And Sharon is dear to our hearts. She's worked alongside him the last 16 to 18 years, and she herself is a mentor to these young actresses. She's a writer, and more than anything, she's just this powerful woman of God. So I think you can be really ministered to by their life and calling.
So let's jump right into it. Well, all the way from Atlanta, Mark and Sharon Fincannon. It's so good to see you guys.
Great to see y'all.
Here we are. Dan and I find ourselves having, we're going to have a couple meetings at Pinewood Studios, right? So in Atlanta. And somehow, Mark, you and Sharon, you get a wind of the fact that we're coming to town. And barely knowing us, you extend this invitation to us. Don't go to a hotel. Come stay with us for a week. I mean, this is, I had no idea, but this is kind of who you guys are. We love you guys.
And we can't wait to return the favor.
Oh, right. Man, we look forward to that.
That's right.
We want you out here.
So now, of course, we didn't do that because we were expecting anything in return.
Oh, I know that. I know that.
That is completely obvious. Well, and so here we are. We began hearing your stories, 16 years in marriage, but that you have now 2 daughters from both sides that came together for a second marriage. How sweet is that? Because they're buddies and they're close. Yes. But it's a whole redemptive story that you have, a redemptive narrative over having had a marriage that was challenging, previous marriage, and needed healing and restoration personally where God was taking you. But now you have 4 son-in-laws, you got 7 grandkids. I must say, to see professionally, spiritually, personally, your life has been fruitful together.
Well, you like us are definitely better together.
Yes.
Amen.
And that's one of the wonderful things about marriage. God's kind of smart, when he right at the beginning said, it's just not good for man to be alone.
Yeah.
You take me back literally to our vows, because I hadn't really thought about them until you were talking, but we wrote vows that were just so committed to affirming back to the Lord that he did this and that he has grand purposes, and our desire is to serve those purposes, whatever they are.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it this morning. It does not seem possible that we've been together really 18 years now, married 16. That it feels like it's been 6 months because of how full it's been.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Mm. Well, I want to jump back to years ago. Mark, you're entering the industry.
Mm-hmm.
First as an actor, then casting. Am I right?
Yeah, very short stint as an actor. I went to my first audition and I knew I'm on the wrong side of the camera.
Yeah. Now, were you? Where was your faith journey already happening, or did that come later? Or?
A great question. I was baptized when I was 10. It was very personal. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was authentic. It was deep. But, those middle school, high school years, when you can't find comrades, you kind of go with the flow of the world. I went into college. I majored in theater. It was really my religion for 4 years. I directed plays. I acted in shows. I did lighting. I did costuming, still not knowing what I was going to do. And I ended up in Charlotte with my older brother, who was 3 years older, who had gone there. and through a whole series of a whole other story, ultimately, I tried to pursue the career as an actor. And again, I went to my first audition, and I felt comfortable on the stage in a live scenario, but not in a cold room with, that level of intimacy.
Yeah.
So, by the grace of God, I stepped behind the camera and then worked with actors who were comfortable on that side of the camera. And then the movie business basically slowly started moving to North Carolina shortly after I graduated from college, and the rest is history. I mean, Dino De Laurentiis established a movie studio in Wilmington, North Carolina on the coast, and, did 23 features in 3.5 years. I mean, you can't even write that. So
I know that is
later. I had a resume of 23 features.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, did you was it trial and error? I mean, there's probably not a textbook for being a casting director.
Yeah.
Did you have mentors, lessons learned?
For sure. We started doing extras, and that's basically an HR job, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you're going out and you're finding people, and you're,
warm bodies.
What the job's like, and you're saying behave, right?
You behave.
Yeah.
Don't act, just behave.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they producers couldn't afford to bring all their actors from New York and Los Angeles. So gradually over time with each show, they would say, hey, do you think you could find some actors that could fill these roles? And that grew pretty quickly because the Carolina is loaded with talent. It was just a matter of the opportunities coming forth. And so, we were in the middle of trying to making that happen. The greatest blessing was when people talk about the history of casting directors in the movie business, one name that rises to the top. He was the very first casting director to have his name put as casting director at the beginning of a movie.
Wow.
Was a man named Len Stallmaster. And Len Stallmaster came with Frank Capra Jr. to cast a film very early in my career. And because he had a relationship with Frank Capra Jr., Frank Capra Jr. stayed in the area. He brought Len back 3 or 4 times. I ended up going on the road with Len. I flew to New York. I taped for Len in the Mayflower Hotel on Central Park. I mean, so when you ask mentor, I learned more about just process and kindness and love for actors through the man Len Stallmaster than anybody.
To mentor under him it's like learning how to play piano from Beethoven. We're talking the guy.
And that's no small thing. And that's what I was going to say is God's favor.
Totally.
Really God's favor, in a sense, fast tracked. So, okay, so now you're meeting Sharon, and we'll can mention that as well. But Sharon in particular, I love the redemptive narrative over your life, your story, your testimony. Can you just share a little bit about where God brought you prior to meeting Mark?
Well, I think it's important to say that I wasn't raised in a Christian home. I came to faith at 15. So I was able to read the Bible and say, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. This is who we're supposed to be, and this is what we're supposed to be doing. And I had a very difficult childhood. And then my ex-husband and I got married, and we both knew God put us together. And after 10 years of marriage, he confessed to a lifetime addiction to pornography. And in the end, much as went through the motions, at 28 years of marriage, the Lord finally told me I was done. And through that process, though, he began getting me up early in the morning to just spend incredible time wooing my heart.
The Lord, that is.
The Lord did. And he, we had so much incredible time together, the Lord and I, that I really learned how much he loved me and that he would always be enough. And when I would sit down early in the morning and spend that time with him and just pour my heart out to him, I would sit down and I would get, I'd have worship on and I would just cry through the worship, and I would, I'd give him my betrayals and my heartbreak and all of that. And he would give me, it was like this holy exchange went on.
Yes.
He would give me assurance and peace and love and focus, and gave me the ability. By the time I got up every morning from doing that, I was a different person than I sat down. Wow. He carried me through years of hopelessness in a marriage, to prove that he is the Jesus of the Bible. He is who he said he is.
Yes. Yes.
And he trained me in so many ways in ministry with my gifts that I've had a front row seat to watch him heal and restore people and relationships and so much, again, proving again, he is who he said he is. And one of the most important things before Mark and I got together is the Lord moved into my heart at such a deep level to claim the part of my heart that I feel like he paid the highest price for, that I would never give to a human being, and that he would always be enough. If I never got married again, he so completely satisfied my soul.
I love that.
And was such an
Love
ever-present companion, and has been ever since, that, you know, to me, that's often the counsel for single women, you know, hey, can you pray for a husband? I'll say, well, not till you really fall in love with Jesus and you know how much he loves you, because no matter what happens on this earth, he's paid the highest price for your heart and your life, and has an amazing plan for your life if you just ask him and then walk in it, you know. And mine happened to include this amazing man as a husband, and walking through ministry together, and it's been remarkable. Truly.
Now, in the meantime, Mark, your career is gaining momentum. You're building more and more of a client base. What is happening in your faith journey during that time prior to meeting?
Question, because that's really where I wanted to go back. I remember where I was. I was sitting in my car on Market Street in downtown Wilmington. My best friend, my roommate of 4 years in college, had tragically died in I'm going to really get emotional now because it's on Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, wow.
1985. So that was 35 years ago, I guess, 40, whatever. And it rocked everything. I remember he was killed in the mountains of North Carolina on a small lake. And I went up for the funeral, and his mother had asked me to eulogize him, and I just was too emotional. As you can tell, I have always had a real sensitive heart and spirit, difficult to control my emotions at times, particularly as a teenager. But this was as deep as I'd ever been, and I couldn't do it. And I remember driving home in my car 6 hours by myself, but I really wasn't by myself. I really had the first conversation with God that I'd had in a long time. And it really was, what makes you think, son, you're ever going to feel comfortable standing at a funeral home or at a church or a synagogue or a gravesite for that matter, and talking about someone else's life, death, eternal things, when you don't have an assurance of eternal things.
Right.
And I'm like, wait a minute, I went to Sunday school all through my years. I was baptized when I was 10. And the more I talked, the more I realized how empty those words were. I really did not know that I know that I know.
Yes.
And so I went on a quest, just begging God to reveal himself and reveal truth. And I remember, now I'm back in that car on Market Street, and I remember I'd ask my brother, I'd ask my friends, I'd ask a lot of friends, and I think a lot of 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, maybe even 49-year-old come to a place in their life when they're going, is this all there is? I mean, is there anything beyond this? All those questions that many people have a hard time answering.
Yes.
So because I had the Bible when I was young, I found a Bible. I think it was CBN, had an 800 number. If you call it, they'll send you the book. It was called The Book.
Yeah, The Book. I remember.
More of a modern translation. And I remember on that street corner reading, turning to this, Galatians 5:22, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And in a weird way, I thought, self-control, that's not in the Bible. I know that sounds strange, but in a strange way, that's how it affected me. But then overall, I thought, whatever this fruit is, I want that.
Yes. Yeah.
And I just said, God, I want the spirit of love and joy and peace and
Yes.
forbearance and kindness and goodness and faithfulness. And I remember just praying, and in very short order, my perspective started changing about a lot of things.
Yes.
And I realized that, you know, being connected to Hollywood and the fame and the, you know, I mean, really in a weird way, I was the most popular guy in Wilmington because
Sure.
my brother and I, we basically were the doorway to work in the movies.
Yeah.
Yes.
I never perceived it that way, but that is the fact.
Yes.
And I just never let that kind of settle in, other than, wow, I have the greatest privilege to be able to help people fulfill their dreams, you know? And I'll also help them understand that what you're looking for here, you're not going to really find it here.
Right,
okay?
right.
That's right. Then you've got, you're stepping all over, Jenna.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Go.
I want to say, because
We're so excited.
I know it. There's so much to unpack here. So much. So Sharon, you guys, I mean, look at this woman God brings to you and what he has already settled in her heart, and you move forward in marriage. What's your impression of this industry, and how was it that you got involved?
So interestingly enough, I had always, for many years, being very diligent as a Christian mother and having to discuss all the things that they were looking at in the household, and that this is not God's best, and God's best is this and that and so forth. And so I was very diligent about what they could watch on television and what they could go see. And I had been praying, I had been burdened for the movie and television industry and so forth for some years. And so when I stepped back a bit, when God began to make it obvious that he was putting us together, I thought, well, I guess it makes sense. And I'm somebody who's going to speak the truth, and I have a heart for, God's really given me a heart for women in the industry. But there's so many women I feel like I've counseled that either didn't have the approval of their parents and whatever, and just kind of struggling to be able to encourage them. If God's given you a gift, he plans on calling on it, and how much they need a support system in standing in their faith in the face of this industry. And so it didn't take long for me to realize the place that God had appointed me to. And it's really been a privilege to have entrance like I've had.
Yeah. You know, I think anyone would have to spend less than 5 minutes with you guys to realize that there's nothing you're more passionate about than ministry. And we have witnessed in your life firsthand, you're able to work in the industry at such a high level, but you seamlessly integrate ministry within it. It's not compartmentalized in your life. It isn't like, okay, I'm wearing my media professional hat, I'll come home, have dinner, then I'll put on my ministry hat. You know, it just oozes from your being, your hearts. How do you do that?
Well, let me tell you, Dan, you know, after really crying out and realizing what has real value and what doesn't, even in my late 20s, early 30s there at the studio, because I had such a close personal relationship with Frank Capra Jr., he moved to Wilmington and became the president of Screen Gem Studios. And so I then just decided, the Bible so touched me that I thought, I want to share this with my colleagues, those who would want to come. So I remember going to Frank one day and say, Frank, on Sunday evenings, I'd love just to start a Bible study here at the studio. And it was in that meeting that Sharon came in one evening, and that's how we met, was at a Bible study at the studio lot.
Oh,
that's right.
Okay.
Yes.
That's right. Well, we have watched you guys, of course, you know, seeing how you treated us, that place where you're open-handed. So it's like, this is my job, but those spiritual antennas that say, what else has God up to? And of course that makes life so exciting. But one of the things in particular I love, Sharon, is that you're, like you just mentioned, God has opened door for you to mentor a lot of actresses. And partly because, I mean, if you can imagine, and most people understand with the acting as a profession, I mean, it's so hit and miss. There's so many no's, there's so much rejection, all these things to be able, and that can hijack your self-worth. So what are the what are the things that you see God calling you to deposit again and again and again?
You know, one of the things that the Lord told me as well when I started mentoring women is be sure as you mentor them, they understand they don't get their value, their self-worth,
right.
their sense of provision from people, places, or things, including me, but they get it from the Lord. And my job has always been to turn them back to the Lord. So no matter what happens, career-wise, marriage-wise, whatever, they're secure in the Lord, and they know that they have an irreplaceable part in God's plan in this point in time in history in the earth to fulfill. No one else can do but
yes. Amen. And that's a love that Christ has for us, and our identity that can't be changed.
Yes.
It can't be shaken no matter what happens, no matter how many doors get thrown in our face, and etc. You know, that never changes. Peggy and my hearts, and you know our hearts for young people.
Yeah.
As they move into the industry, you know, have those attributes in your life, and then tell these beautiful redemptive stories of the virtues of the kingdom.
As Fred Rogers said,
yes.
The space between the television set and the eyes of a child is holy ground.
Holy ground.
And
God inhabits that.
Exactly. And yet we've lost, you know, certain people, and not growing up in that environment, or the environment we're speaking of, a spirit of love and joy and peace and kindness. But we know they respond to them because the box office shows it time and time again.
I want to go on a little side trip now. You, Mark, you've worked on so many different productions. You've worked with so many different actors and actresses, directors, etc. What is one or two of your favorite moments or people you met that you just really, really enjoyed?
The first one is fun. I mean, two people come to mind. The first one is I was early on in my career. Among those first 23 movies, I think it was probably the 10th one. And it was a comedy with Gene Hackman and Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
And because I had grown up through high school and college watching Saturday Night Live, to meet Dan Aykroyd for me I was shaking. And I've not been that about any actor there is on planet Earth, truly. It's just not a thing that I've ever, you know, kind of thought anything other than they're just another person like me. But there was something about Dan Aykroyd being so genuine, so honest, so caring, so in tune with who he was talking to, that is so much the opposite of the way he's played every character.
Right.
Totally.
That it was off-putting, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But really, what a thrill. And Dan is one of those guys. There's very few of those. I think Gary Busey was this way. If they ever learn your name once, they never forget it.
Wow.
Yes.
They just have one of those, you know, photographic memories, and their gift is in remembering names. So, and that's a huge gift. I remember when I used to do extras casting, and before computers, all on a rotary dial phone, calling extras every night. Gosh. Hey, I need you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. You need to wear this. Don't wear this. You know, well, the whole time that I'd be talking to them, I'd be looking at their Polaroid and their name.
Yes.
Right.
I do this for 200 or 300 people. So the next morning at 6 a.m., I'm going, hey, Bob, how's it going? And they're looking around going, how do you know my name of the 200 people that are here, right?
Yeah, but doesn't that place value on people,
Yeah, it does.
right?
When you remember their name.
Right.
It's crazy. I mean, I still hear from people today who felt like that I personally, you know, which I did. I invested, you know, a lot in every one of those moments and every one of those people. But
you'll get a kick out of this because you said you were nervous about, I think there's something about your childhood or whatever.
Right.
So tell them about the time Dick Van Dyke.
Oh, yeah. When I was at CBS, he was doing Diagnosis Murder. And he needed to shoot an episode on the Young and the Restless set, which Young and the Restless taped across the hall from where I did The Price is Right. And I was supervising that particular show with Dick Van Dyke. And I go down on set, and he's just sitting in his director's chair while they're directing, you know, doing lighting and et cetera. And so with fear and trembling, I'm so nervous because I've never met him. I don't know if he's a nice man or whatever.
Yeah.
I walked up to him and I said, Mr. Van Dyke, I'm a big fan of your show. I just love it, everything about it. I have a book on the Dick Van Dyke Show up in my office. If I ran up there and got it, would you be nice enough to sign it? And he says, absolutely, absolutely. So I run up there fast as I can go because I'm afraid they'll call him to the set or whatever. I run down and I hand it to him and go, could you sign it? And he says, well, on one condition. And I said, oh, what? And he said, I want you to grab a chair and sit next to me. And he went page by page, every picture, and told me a story of every single picture in that book.
Wow.
And then he goes, now I'll sign it. He was so nice to take that time and talk about speaking value that he would do that. He didn't have to do that. He might be tired of those stories, but he was so nice. And of course, I still have the book in my office here.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Well, it's obvious why he lived as long as he lived. Still living, I guess,
Still
right?
living.
Yes, because he has a thankful heart. I mean, obviously, to go through all of those shows was for him kind of a gesture of thanks. Let me share with you about what this show meant. Kind of what we're doing here. Even we're looking back on our lives and really looking with thankful hearts that we even have a story to tell. Right.
Right.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that leads him to the ultimate moment. And I've had a lot of them, but really this is one of the ultimate moments. So I had the pleasure of working on the show Ray, which was the life story of Ray Charles that Taylor Hackford directed.
Best Picture Oscar, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Wow.
He won. That's right. He won it. And well, I had already been on the show for a while, so I knew Taylor Hackford, the director, really well. And Taylor had said, look, we've cast every role but one, and it's an actress that I'm flying in from New York. Her name is Ingenue Ellis, a brilliant African-American actress. He said, Jamie's going to be here. I need you to come meet me in the office. I need you to tape, this audition. I want to see what the chemistry's like between them. So I said, sure. So I met him up there. Well, Jamie was already there. And they called Taylor in the office and said, hey, Ingenue's downstairs. Why don't you go get her? Taylor said, hey, I'll be right back. I'm going to go grab Ingenue. You guys hang out. Be right back. So I had 3 minutes there with Jamie. But I really didn't know Jamie to that degree at this point. I'm just getting, and I'm blown away by how genuine he was. And, it was really one of the thrills of my life. But the moment that happened that I will never forget as long as I live is Taylor and Ingenue walked through the door. And Jamie leans over, and I hadn't even been aware that they were there while we were talking. But he leans over, and on the coffee table right in front of him are Ray Charles dark sunglasses. And he leans over, and he puts these sunglasses on. And when he sat back, it is the most unbelievable transformation I have ever seen in my life.
Wow, that's saying a lot.
Yes.
Jamie Foxx became Ray Charles. And he started talking to Ingenue as Ray Charles. Oh, hey, baby, come sit down. Ray. And Ray wants to see you. Ray wants to meet you. You come over here and sit. And Ingenue, not like I grew up with actors who would say, oh, you ready to start the scene? They'd get all freaked out. Ingenue just said, oh, Ray, baby, I've been waiting to meet you all my life. She left right where she came. She sat down beside him. He took her hand into his hand, and they started this thing. And I look up at Taylor, and he just kind of winks at me like, this is stardom right here in this room. These are two artists who don't like the minutia. They like the work itself.
Yes.
And Jamie launched it. And she was such the artist, she stepped right into it. And I literally, when that audition was over 20 minutes later, I left there, went to the office, called my brother and said, I just saw what will be the Oscar winner next year. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened.
Oh my!
Because what you're witnessing is the artistry, not the celebrity.
Right.
You know, that's the wonderful thing we get. We get that glimpse of the artistry,
Yeah.
you know, away from the celebrity and the lights.
Yeah, the embodiment of the character.
Yeah.
And so that you lose, you know, even being Twitter pated about who the actor is
Yeah.
because they're just, and as a casting director, what a treat.
As we wrap up, looking back on your many years journey in the industry, but also your 16-year marriage, a young person who's saying, I think God's calling me to the industry. What are some of the things you would want to tell them?
You know, on a practical level, genuinely a practical level is before your feet hit the ground from your bed, have either a Bible nearby or your phone nearby and pick it up and read a verse of scripture. If that's all the time you have. But begin your opening moments of every day grabbing a hold of the real source that will guide you that day. Start every day.
Nice.
Seeking God. Jesus started every morning early, even in the dark, saying, Father, what are you doing today? Can I join you? And the Lord says, of course you can. Yeah. And then you see what God's doing and you just join him. And it really makes for an adventure that we could never drum up ourselves.
I think it's important to say to whoever's going to hear this is that God sees you. It says in the Bible, he knows the number of hairs on your head. And that says he cares about every detail of everything that concerns you. And in some of the darkest times of my last marriage, a complete stranger, a woman who obviously knows the Lord, came up and did not know my story, but she, out of her mouth, she said, you know, you'll never need an alarm clock again if you just ask the Lord to wake you up in enough time to get what you need from him that day. And I began doing that, and it changed my life dramatically. And then as I began ministering to women, and God would just speak to my heart about what they needed to hear and what kind of study to do specifically, and watch broken family relationships get restored, and forgiveness, and re-honoring parents out of the command of the Lord. And because it works, and these are eternal things that will never let you down. And so, you know, each step I found that you make towards the Lord, he'll just blow you away with blessing you and showing you how much he loves you and he created you to do life with you. Yes. And it's just the most glorious thing. And it's like this never ending well inside of life and joy and peace and purpose that never goes away.
I love the advice you're giving to people, and you both embody it so much, because what you're saying is some of the normal rhythms of life is you get up out of bed groggy, you get your coffee, maybe a little bit of food, and you rush out and start your day. And you're saying, first and foremost, feed your soul.
Yes.
You know, align your intentions, your purposes with what the Lord has for you that day. Yeah. And that plays out in your life so beautifully, because like we said earlier, you integrate ministry into everything you do. And we just love that about you. So we so appreciate you being with us here. And we always enjoy our time with you guys.
Yes. God fills our cup.
Hey, and I also want to be real, because life is not perfect every day either, and I want to be clear about that. And you know, Sharon's poking me. Don't go there. No, all I'm really saying is that in real life, I think the beauty of, as hard as it is, I think the beauty of the way God designed all of life is that so often it's through our hardest times that we grow the most.
Yes.
And that's even in a simple day's journey where Sharon and I may have a disagreement. I mean, a disagreement to the point we don't really want to talk to each other for a few hours, right?
Yeah. I'm not talking to Peg. I'm talking to you guys.
I'm just kidding. No, we get it.
Now we're hitting some buttons. Now we're going someplace. No, here's the thing. But really, the beauty is, and you've heard it already in our story, we trust within each other that though we may have these disagreements, that we will take them independently to the Lord and wrestle to the ground with them, and he will teach us something. And then we have something actually to give back to each other, you know?
Love it. Thank you guys for giving us your time and your heart. And like we always say about this, in the messy and marvelous stories of where God takes us, it's he weaves this redemptive theme that only he can do.
And now we're back to the very beginning of our conversation. It's not good to be alone.
Yeah.
And we are so grateful
God brought you two together.
That God brought you together, but also brought you into our lives.
Yes.
So we
get
to do life together.
Yes.
Amen.
Okay, we love you guys. We can't wait till we can get back on an airplane and come to Atlanta.
Amen.
I know, we can't wait.
Or we'll come your way.
We
Either
just
way.
can't wait to get together.
We agree.
We love you guys.
Thank you for joining us for Life Off Screen with Dan and Peggy Ruppel. Life Off Screen is produced by Master Media International. Our technical director is Jason Rugg. Please subscribe to the Life Off Screen YouTube channel or subscribe to the Life Off Screen podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love to hear from you. You can leave your comments in the comment section, and to find out more about Master Media, go to mastermedia.com. Thanks again for joining us. Hope to see you next time.